End of the Internet, where we talk about the internet as a community, an industry, and any other news that floats through our doors. Come take a seat. My name's James.
And my name's Reese.
And it has been quiet.
It has been so quiet. I am currently sitting here just almost in a sweat trying to find any news at all. And I think even the barkeep's kind of like, look, dude, you smell bad as is, but like, come on.
Get some deodorant. Chill out. Stop trying to bait drama with people.
Like, for real. I sit there and I'm like, ha ha ha, you're a silly duffer. And they're like, okay.
Got him.
I wouldn't be allowed to play at Yu-Gi-Oh! Events. Konami would have banned me with the way I smell right now.
You know what? Good. You bloody deserve it.
That's fair.
There has been news, and there has been, news, I say with air quotes. There has been internet-related shenanigans, mostly just nonsense. I mean, we unfortunately have the two ends of the spectrum. We've either got stuff that's so serious and dark or like predatory that's like, yeah, that ain't really our podcast, or it's so lighthearted that we're literally about to talk about pictures of somebody's ass.
I honestly thought you weren't going with that. Like, for some reason I forgot that was first, and I was like, he's going to talk about the third topic, and then no, here we are talking about butts. And you know what's good about
me.
butts?
My mind's always on the ass, mate.
I totally get it. Especially that beautiful alien ass of James Charles.
Hold on, he's got a perfectly human looking ass. I think everything else is kind of the alien aspect.
Look, I got to put it out there. I am, as far as I'm aware, barring anybody ever seen my streams, perfectly straight.
Or anyone that's ever met you, or talked to you, or seen your Twitter, or your Instagram, listen to this podcast, you know.
Maybe I might be selling myself a little bit long, but yeah, James Charles is an immaculate looking dude. His body is really good.
Before you start talking about James Charles' ass and how much you love it, let's talk about why that's the topic of today.
I was going to lead into that, but let me just see if I can get there. If we get there, I'll do it that way. So, James Charles, immaculate looking dude. Why the hell do I know what his ass looks like? It's because he published it as sort of a not retaliation, but as a response to, well, it kind of was a retaliation, but not a retaliation in a bad way. It was a response to people threatening to leak his nudes. Nudes? What? Am I 80? Nudes. Threatening to leak
nudes.
Threatening to leak his nudes. So he published his own so that they'd have no ammo. Reason why? His Twitter got hacked.
Yeah, so there was a thing that recently where and I say recently, this must have been a hole in security for a while, but when hackers get through these breaches, they usually like to really get their value out before it gets patched. That's basically AT&T, an internet and mobile provider in America, I believe. It was as simple as people calling up and saying, hey, I'm this celebrity. I got locked out of my account. I lost my SIM card. Can you give me the deets? And then that's all they needed. And they just hacked all these accounts, you know, and the typical really lazy hacker stuff where they just drop the N-bomb and a bunch of homophobic slurs over Twitter. It's like, great, I'm glad that you achieved this high point in your life. Anyway, one of them was like, I'm going to end James Charles' career. I'm going to post his nudes. So when he got the account back, he said, look, you've got no power for me. Here, post it. Now, yes, in theory, cool, right? Yeah, stick it to the man. In practice, this dude with millions of followers on Twitter just posted his ass.
He legitimately has never had more than just a shirtless photo of himself online, let alone...
What? Are we talking about the same James Charles here?
Well, he's always had pants on.
Yeah, I mean, relatively.
Oh, I mean, like, anyway. Not necessarily, you know, wholesome or family-friendly photos. Like, you can pose sexually with clothes on. But regardless... He wasn't naked. He always had some form of clothing on to cover the genitalia and or other areas. So, that being said, this was kind of a stir-up because James Charles's community doesn't necessarily consist of, well, adults. And that kind of stirred up...
Oh, I'd say, usually that's a pretty standard jab at people, but I'd say that he probably has a pretty high percentage than most of adult community.
Oh,
I struggle
course.
to think of YouTubers. For anyone that doesn't know who James Charles is, a huge creator on the platform, a beauty vlogger,
beauty
and
makeup
tutorial and makeup artist kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's sort of the fear there, I guess, sort of comes where the only reason why I bring that up is because there was one tweet that he responded to, which was like, you know, how could you do this? You have a young following as well as your adults. Are you worried about what they think? And his response was like, well, it was going to happen anyway if I didn't do this. And, you know, people were invading my privacy. So fuck you, fuck them. Enjoy this picture of my ass.
He was never like vindictive.
Oh, bullshit, he wasn't. He totally was.
No, one of the I think the one you're talking about is there's. I mean, if you look at it, he never told anyone to get fucked.
Oh,
he just said like.
He doesn't really swear though. That's kind of his whole family-friendly thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was vindictive. I think that he dropped the tweet and he was aware that like you just gotta let that like the memes will come as they did, and you've just gotta let that play itself out. If you try and like fight with it, he's smart enough to know the internet by now that if he'd fought with people, then he would have made it a problem.
No, that's fair. Look, I guess I'm just
look at my ass and enjoy it.
I guess I'm more reading into the words he used, the way that he just responded to this, I guess, naysayer to him, and his was like, well, everything you think is wrong. And I guess I just sort of saw that as more of a fuck you than anything, but you're probably right.
I have literally no clue what tweet you're talking about. Every comment I saw him respond with was quite frank, I think would be a good way to describe it.
I think I'm mistaking his frankness for abrasiveness.
Yeah, I mean, like one of them, somebody said, literally nobody asked for this. I think that was one of the most liked responses was just somebody saying nobody asked for this. And he just said, yeah, well, I didn't ask for my privacy to be violated, so I'm trying to do what's best for me. Carry on with your day. Like, you'll be okay. Carry on. Which to me is a very, like, not polite, but a very, like...
Well, it's real, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very measured response where he would be more tempted to be like, how about go yourself? Considering that he just had his privacy leaked, you know.
Well, actually, you mentioned it before, though. I think the best thing to come of this was the memes. The H3 ass, the beauty that was his cellulite risen took us. No.
My goddamn Twitter was just covered in pictures of people's ass, and I do not stand for this. I cannot believe the amount of ass I saw on that day. Unrequested ass, might I add.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't even like liked pornography. It was just generalized, like posted ass.
Sorry, I was drinking beer. Anyway, yeah, H3 Ethan Klein. God damn, that did not need to happen. He's got that. If you guys watch that King of the Hill episode where he's got the tiny ass, that is Ethan Klein. And yeah, I just saw so much. The memes, sure, we get it. Lots of funny ha-has. But when people are actually just taking pictures of their ass, I was like, yeah, I can do without that.
Yeah, especially like, I think the only other asses that I actually saw, other than photoshopped images, were Ricky Berwick and Ethan Klein.
Yeah. No, there's a small collection. But what's actually funny, like on the topic of that becoming a meme, if James Charles hadn't got in front of this and he had actually just... And somebody had leaked his picture. He looks so weird in this image, I would have believed it was photoshopped anyway. He uploaded it himself, and I still feel like it was photoshopped.
You know what? Yeah. I think... would you like to explain why it looks so strange? I'm more than happy to do that.
Is the Area 51 meme still relevant?
Well, you know, it's like when they take out, you know, a girl looking slightly strange and it's like, got my new alien GF, about to pound them cheeks. Oh, Area 51 TY. Like, but basically, look, James Charles in this photo, you could see his body, and it was just the way that he turned to basically posture himself in a way that makes his ass poke out. It's typical, but the way that the shadow was bouncing off his body, the way that his body contoured, and especially the way his neck connected to his chest made him just look like this alien. This, I want to say like freak, but It's not a freak. He looks inhuman. It looks like uncanny valley level human.
Putting the poor dude on blast.
Hey, look.
Uncanny valley is a good term. Just like his neck is it just ain't right. That ain't the way that's supposed to turn, boy.
That's right. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if you looked through it, but I ended up wanting to know why he looked the way he did. And it honestly was because of the... Yes, I've researched his ass. It was weirding me out, man. I'm like, how did this
My
guy
God, this is actually the worst conversation we've ever had on this podcast. That is phenomenal.
But like,
we did it. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it.
But like, honestly, I look at him and I'm thinking, this man, in theory, is well-toned, obviously at a healthy weight. Why the hell does he look so strange? And it's because of the lighting, the color of the room, and just the way that he tried to obviously make himself look better in a posture. And
I'm sure he was focusing more on his
gluteus
pose
maximus.
And not focusing so much on his neck aesthetic, you know?
Oh, yeah. I hate it when people send me nudes and their necks all fucked up. Like, geez.
Just insta boner killer.
I was ready. I had half a chub knowing I was getting nudes and then dead.
But it was James Charles that was not put on blast, but we'd gone back a while, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where he was called out for using face filters. I forget why that was relevant. I think maybe it did something that really made the images look weird, and people called him out for using face filters. And he effectively said, "Look, I'm in the beauty industry. I will use Photoshop and I will use whatever." Stuff all the time. I want my images to look good every time I take a photo. This is nothing to do with there's no scandal here. I just want my images to look good.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can totally believe that he would be the kind of guy that would take a nude, because as you were saying, this is the only nude that he would take it and then slap that on Photoshop, you know.
And then just casually, accidentally fuck up his neck and liquefy the tiles in the background.
No, see, at the same point, though, I feel like somebody would have noticed by now, unless he's a god-tier Photoshop artist. I feel like people would have noticed.
I for sure believe that this photo is legit. Like maybe the lighting or like the levels might have been changed, but other than like the actual aesthetic of the photo, I don't think that there's anything digitally edited about the actual... Well, what's the pixels? I don't know. Other than the color, I don't think there's anything changed about the photo.
Yeah, there's actually a Photoshop plugin being released soon. I don't know how hush-hush it is, but it effectively will scan an image for pixels that aren't where they should be for people using stuff like Liquify, which is awesome. I mean, but I'm very sure that this image would have been sent through one or two of those.
Oh, well,
then again, Twitter does compress the Christ out of all their images, turning it into little Minecraft parodies.
Oh, man. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see how... You know, all of this was because some person decided that they're going to mimic James Charles and have access to his phone and all his text messages and everything, because someone on the other end was either starstruck or too dumb to believe that maybe we should get some sort of two-factor authentication to...
I don't think it's starstruck. I think it would be the opposite. I think if somebody did recognize... James Charles, they would be more protective instead of... I think that was just the run-of-the-mill. Okay, that's your name? Sure.
Yeah, probably. But apparently it happened to a few other people as well. AT&T just really dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, I know Shane Dawson was one.
He just had hard
There's
R
definitely
N-words.
a couple people, but these guys didn't put pictures of their ass on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, so I don't care, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I think they just contacted AT&T and they were like, "You fucked up. You nearly ruined our careers by letting these people access it."
That's another note, is that James Charles is looking at suing.
Yes, actually, yeah, you're right. Well, you know what's
interesting?
interesting?
Why not?
Because the same sort of thing happened. I agree with you. Why not? You got nothing to lose. They fucked you over. I'm saying fuck a lot. I'm sorry, but Ethan Klein, we were talking about him, even though he's had his ass out in the news. He's technically been a victim of people impersonating him and getting access to his phone number, phone everything. I think it was a few years ago now. I'm talking probably, I don't want to go wrong, but I was thinking it's 2015, 2016. I remember hearing about that. I think it was Virgin at the time. And yeah, they just gave outward access to some rando for all of his text calls and pretty much anything that his phone company had. And this guy was able to completely just control Ethan's life until he got it back.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that they take their Twitter and stuff instead of, going for more monetary intent than just, dropping N-bombs on people's Twitter. Like, great success.
Hey, guys, guess what? We did it. We dropped the hard R. Oh, my God, we did it.
Haha, and now, wouldn't it be way funnier to pretend it wasn't hacked?
Yeah, and, accidentally include it. Or, write, a tweet and then delete it 10 seconds after.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like if we were to ever troll, sorry, not we. I say we. I mean me. If I was to ever troll somebody like that, not that I would. I'd hate to know that happened to me. But if that happened to somebody, I would honestly just you'd mess with them subtly, not necessarily just outright writing these easily detectable bullshit.
Yeah, I would at least try and do something that's funny. Like saying, let's say it's James Charles, whatever his makeup brand is, just being like, I'm gonna be selling shares on the stock market for 50 cents each. Get them while they're hot, and just watch, and not make it obvious that I'm a hacker, and just see how people react, that kind of thing.
And
or
being casually get James Charles arrested for insider
stock
trading.
manipulation. Yeah, or make a tweet at Keemstar. That's it. Too much shit talk. Time for a blood duel. I will see you at the Hyperdome. Really just something, not just dropping the N-bomb, just something that's a little bit. I mean, then again, I think if James Charles posted that, most people would be like, okay, this probably ain't James.
Wow, did you see that time that James Charles did it was fake. No, but he said he wanted to challenge the Hyperdome. It was fake. James Charles ain't doing that.
I reckon James Charles would follow through just to show he ain't a pussy.
James Charles ain't no pussy. He gonna fight at the Hyperdome. Oh,
He'd
man.
whoop Keemstar's old ass.
God, I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't see. I saw Keemstar's face edited onto male ass, but not actual Keemstar ass. That was kind of nice.
Thank goodness. I mean, that would have been far too controversial for any kind of internet, especially YouTube, and we all know they don't want none of that.
They want bar GameStar.
No, I mean, just controversy in general. Susan Wojcicki. Can we actually wait? So Wozniak?
Wojcicki.
Wishkashia sauce.
Wujja.
It's actually Wojcicki.
It's actually Wojcicki. Susan Wojcicki.
I feel like there's more syllables in there than need to be.
Some people, she's responded to anybody that gets it roughly right, but the canonized last name for her is Wojcicki, but people call her Wojcicki, which is incorrect, but that's the other thing people call her.
Susan? Yeah, Susan Moshi recently just made some tweets, and at this point, she cannot do anything right. Actually, you know what? She had a little up the other day when she started to actually reprimand people for stealing from content creators after many years. This was something where she was getting applauded for the bare minimum, but, at least it was something.
It reminds me of that guy that you've ever had. I'm sure people listening have had that guy at their job that was so close to being fired all the time, but for some reason he never did. And then finally one day, out of the blue, he picked up a mop, or he went somewhere and fixed something that was meant to be done by anybody during the day, and he just did it, and everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, and they get a standing O for doing just what should have been the minimum.
Yeah.
Which is what we've come to expect from YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. They're that employee that does nothing and then expects a standing ovation when they do a little thing.
Yeah, the only problem here is that employee is your boss.
Oof. Oh.
So, basically, she makes a tweet and I guess it's a part of one of their YouTube blog posts.
Yeah, it was a direct link to the blog post with a tiny little caption.
It's a post about they want YouTube to be an open platform. As they say, preserving YouTube as an open platform is more important than ever.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is just... And she goes on to say all this stuff that just doesn't align with that terrible thing we've got called evidence that would suggest incredibly otherwise. They're saying that...
God.
And don't get me wrong. They were saying that the a small amount of controversial creators have a huge impact on the rest of the people that are following the rules. Yeah. Yes, that's true. We saw the apocalypse caused by, a couple of out of context taken clips, and it causes a huge ripple effect. But then she's in this letter to creators or blog post, whatever it's called, she said, One assumption we've heard is that we hesitate to take action on problematic content because it benefits our business. This is simply not true. Now, it kind of is. We've seen people, at least the quote-unquote bad guys, who try really hard to keep things advertiser friendly. They'll censor out everything, they'll take out any controversial topics, and they'll get hit. Yet these larger but typically more family friendly, the kind of ones that YouTube wants to keep on the front page, they can get away with a bunch of stuff. Yeah, and they go and they say, "Oh, this is simply not true." But I mean, YouTubers really cover themselves in this big blanket of we don't show any on the algorithm, so nobody can actually refute this.
Yeah. I think actually one thing that was very interesting in that same article, they talk about this massive, massive problem that they've tried to solve about the bad or what was it, problematic content. And they said, even though it's that massive, it contributes to 1%. This is all because of 1% of YouTube content. Like, don't get me wrong. Look,
they just get their arm twisted so hard by advertisers.
Yeah, exactly right. And look, I understand if we're looking at like literal snuff films and stuff like that that's being uploaded and that's being considered part of the problematic content. Like, yeah, for sure, get rid of it. Nobody wants to see that. But if we're talking somebody like, I don't know, says the gay slur that starts with F, like, I'm not going to be particularly so blown away by that. I guess if
also like from videos just from years ago. Not saying that older videos with slurs are okay, but we're talking about people making videos are getting hit just years and years after anyone would actually consider them problematic.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's exactly it, isn't it? Like, you got to adjust for the climate that it was at the time. You can't. Looney Tunes did it once upon a time. I might have already said it in the podcast, but Looney Tunes had a big disclaimer at the start of their episodes saying the representations of certain people in this cartoon are not representative of today. They shouldn't be seen as such, and to delete them, we see them as wrong. However, to delete them would be deleting a part of history itself.
Yeah, it was actually Whoopi Goldberg was a large advocate of that, and she said that to remove it is to pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
which is Germany in a nutshell.
Keep one can at a time. Anyway, if you look at stuff like Netflix and stuff, are they just going to remove any? Well, then again, they only really focus on new stuff. But any kind of streaming service, are they just going to stop uploading any movie that has outdated ideas or slurs? I mean, if you look at some old comedies, and when I say old, I mean less than 10 years ago, there is still rampant sexism, homophobia, racism. It's all still there, but it's like, yeah, it's old. That's kind of, there was a bit of a lower bar back then about what was acceptable. Yeah. I feel like YouTube going back and just like purging old content, it's not fixing anything, right? Like,
just
YouTube isn't a cleaner pace. Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I see a video that's offensive, it doesn't matter where it comes out, it's still offensive. But it should be taken into consideration that this video from 15 years ago doesn't need to be like deleted just because it was a product of its time.
Well, that's actually, it's interesting you say that. The series Drawn Together was even regarded as being immensely offensive in its own time. But because offensive humor was still being accepted, and I guess there was less about certain things, that show was, I think, given 3 seasons. And now not a single streaming service will pick it up. No one has taken it because of just how plain and outright offensive, racist, homophobic, sexist, whatever slur, whatever or ism you want to use, it was full of it. but it was done as comedy in its time. And that sort of, that same sort of way was a very good representation. That was like 15 years ago, that show was. No, not 15 years, I lied, 10 years ago.
Definitely not that long ago.
No, 10 years ago. And it was, I
have no clue where you're going with this. I feel like Drawn Together, it was intentionally crass and it had no intention on surviving.
No, the reason why
kind of like South Park. When South Park makes an episode set to offend, when that gets hate by the media, they love the press, and then it burns in a fire and they go, great, on to the next one. I don't think that something, especially things designed to be offensive, need to be preserved in any regard.
No, they don't. But like, I guess in that same sort of South Park vein, Team America. The amount of people that still quote that to this day, and that still has immensely offensive stuff. The reason why I brought it Drawn Together is just because, like, that to me was a brilliant example of something that was made to be funny and was funny to certain people, however, is immensely offensive to others. And
yeah, but what do you want? What do you want it to be on Netflix?
Well, of course I would. I'd love to watch that show again. And I just guess it's sort of like, you know, what's considered problematic, and we're talking like big old videos being slashed on YouTube because they're considered problematic, when what was funny then isn't funny now. That's where I was going with that.
No, I will I'll disagree on that one. I feel like if you had something, man, I didn't watch much Drawn Together. I don't know. I feel like if something's intent is to be offensive, that is totally different to something if it happens to be offensive, right? Like, dropping slurs that were more cultural back in the day, especially when we're talking about stuff like LGBT related stuff. Very, very recently, that stuff was just, it wasn't as, it wasn't as offensive as it is now. It wasn't as controversial.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of stuff, those creators were just making the content that people seem to be happy with. And most importantly, the platform they're providing to were happy with. Drawn Together, that was offensive when it came out. You know what I mean? I feel like that is a huge difference there. Is that when Drawn Together came out, people were like, get this show off the air. But when people were saying light slurs, and I do mean light, I don't mean like dropping M-bombs and stuff. When people were doing like stuff that is now deemed offensive, if it wasn't back then it should be treated differently.
Well, yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. I guess I'm just sort of looking at this extreme here where it was like, yeah, the show was renewed for 3 seasons. Like, there's got to be something in there where people...
For an animated series, they're bloody lucky. There's a lot of better series that didn't go further than that.
They got one movie out of it.
They got a movie, an animated movie?
They got a proper animated movie.
Yeah, I think they thrived off controversy and they had no intent. The old, was it burn bright, burn short, whatever?
Yeah.
That was their plan.
Burn hot, burn short. Or burn short, burn bright, burn hot. I don't know. I get your thing. Basically,
burn controversial, get bloody cancelled.
Get cancelled, yeah. Anyway, sorry. My thing about Drawn Together, the reason why I brought that up was just because of that. I guess I didn't find it offensive, but I'm not a part of any LGBT community, and I'm certainly not a person of color. So,
but how long ago did you watch that?
I've watched it again recently.
Yeah,
as I said, no streaming services had it. I definitely, I own the DVDs. I guess that's how I watched it legally.
I went to the shop store and bought the DVD box.
But yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just wondering, when you watched it and you saw the offensive humor, did you see it as like, damn, they really were pushing, or you saw it and you're like, yeah, that was just then? I
felt like it was something about just then. Don't get me wrong. There was definitely parts where they didn't exactly, how should I put it? I don't want to say censor. I guess they didn't pull any punches, but that's comedy in its greatest. There's been stand-up comedians for years that have been known because of a certain act they did that was considered X, Y, and Z.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Eddie Murphy's stand-up still hilarious. It is so... Now, that's one where you watch that and you're like, damn, this is a product of its time. But it's still like a good stand-up routine.
Yeah, it was funny at the time, and I sort of feel like that's where Drawn Together sat in that. I didn't want to make this about Drawn Together, by the way. That was just a show I enjoyed and was typically known for being offensive. That's why I brought that up.
No, yeah, but I feel like definitely a better comparison is stuff like Ace Ventura. Oh my god, have you watched that one recently?
That did not age well.
Yeah, now that we have content that is more aware of, people's rights, especially trans rights, stuff like Ace Ventura just super doesn't fly now. There are some scenes that are kind of hard to watch.
Yeah. I mean,
but I do not think that movie should be taken away as well. I feel like there's some... I still quote scenes from that movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I watched Ace Ventura again. I think it was 2015. I watched it again, and I just watched it, and I was like, wow, this is a... it was classified as a movie. That's what it was classified as.
Bang, you put Jim Carrey in anything, I'm down for it.
I honestly thought that it was...
Sonic.
I love Jim Carrey, but I just found that, it was... what's the character of Ace Ventura? He makes faces and says, "Alrighty then."
Yeah. Like a glove. Oh my god, so many stupid lines in that movie.
Yeah.
And here's the part where we talk about movies because it's been that quiet.
Ooh, that was almost as bad as my transitions.
Oh, that was a rough one. I don't want to talk about Ace Ventura anymore.
Well, Ace Ventura is about pet detectives, and you know what other company has movies about pets? Disney.
Most of them.
has old classics. Disney.
See, I mean, Disney would have been a way better segue of stuff that used to be offensive. But yeah, I didn't even know about this. Disney has obviously they're looking at pushing this Disney Plus service soon, but they had a Disney 23 Expo.
Yeah.
And Disney 23 is their official fan club that I didn't even know about. I don't know what 23 stands for.
Yeah. It's so strange because it's not only like their fan club, but it also is a streaming service, but a news outlet and a blog. I don't know. It's just like premium content that you pay for and get very little out of it.
They've just become too powerful so fast. I don't think they know what to do with their own empire.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. It's sort of like, we need to, we can charge for this, how much? $100 a year. Done. $100 a year, and then they get access to our blog. How do you feel about that? Cool, done.
Wait, but in streaming services, right?
Oh, but when I say streaming services, I guess this was just D23 I saw. I didn't even think that included a membership to Disney Plus.
Disney Plus didn't think it's out yet.
No. So to be a part of D23, that's $100 a year with no extra benefits.
Oh, you can't even watch movies? Man, see, it is the official fan club.
You were literally oh, God.
This is such a huge empire of a business. Why are they taking these people's money?
I heard in another podcast the other day where they were talking like Disney is literally like a villain, one of their own villains, where they've become so powerful they can do whatever they want because there's nobody to stand up to them, and anybody that does stand up to them gets squashed.
Yeah.
No one has a voice. Let me phrase that. Very few people have a voice loud enough to squash or even remotely inhibit Disney. Disney can keep buying other companies. Disney can keep pushing their own stuff, monetary services, or I should say subscription services, anything they want, because there is nobody out there to impede them with a better service.
I feel like villain is don't get me wrong, absolute power corrupts absolutely, I get that, but they really haven't, considering how much power they haven't really been doing too much wrong.
Are you joking?
They have a history of doing really messed up stuff, especially with Disneyland, all that kind of stuff, but
oh, I'm not even talking about that. I was talking the village of people they literally bought and then kicked them out so they could keep it as a Disney, not a resort, but basically a giant holding facility or storage facility.
Yeah, I mean, they're a giant business. I feel like that is not a nice thing to do, but we're talking about a village or a town, right? Like a small suburb of people gets stitched up. Sure, these guys could buy countries. They've got so much money. I think that if one, and don't get me wrong, yes, we've set the bar very low. They've stitched up a lot of people here, but they still paid for these people's property. This is how development works. I understand. Just to clarify again, not very nice, but they're definitely not supervillain status. You know?
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying, but I can't see that they... With the whole Spider-Man thing that occurred a few weeks ago. Was it last week? It was last week. The thing that occurred with that, I just sort of see that they genuinely do not understand that there's people smaller than them. It's sort of just, they're sort of like, okay, cool, I'm so big, everybody just bows to me. All right, Sony, time, come on, 50%. And then when Sony said no, they were like, excuse, what?
No. I feel like in that case, they are an incredibly powerful company and they just attribute Spider-Man's success to themselves more than Sony, which in this case, I mean, like, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies existed because of Disney, right?
Yeah, for
now,
sure.
It's making more money than it ever has. Undeniably. Far From Home earned more money for Sony than any of their other movies. They do have fair claim to be like, hey, we want more because we're doing more. Now, did they handle it terribly? They sure did. But yet again, I don't think that's like super villainous.
I don't know. I guess I'm just going off the attitudes to which they have to the general public and the general person. And it generally just seems like if they can charge you for something, they will. And I mean, I guess that's just business tactics. And to be honest...
How dare they?
It's solid business. And I think I'm just looking at it from the outside perspective of people that I've heard them say, the more I'm talking about it right now, especially with you here. And there you go, people. You're officially hearing it first on this podcast. My opinion is being changed rapidly.
No, look, all I'm saying is I agree that, yes, they do douchey stuff. I'm just saying for the sheer size of this company, that their evils, like, the first thing that came to your mind was the fact that some people lost their house. It's like, yeah, that sucks, but companies like Nestle are half the size of Disney, and they're doing way worse.
Yeah, look, the whole me saying my opinion being changed, that was meant to be like here it is on the internet first, a guy admitting that his opinion may not have been the correct one, and there may be other ways to look at it. That was more what I was going for there.
Do a big exposed YouTube video later to double backtrack.
Yeah, my exposed video on James. He tried to force his opinion on me. Oh my God.
Hey, I'd watch a video on, like, the villainy of Disney. I'm sure there's a few out there.
There's gotta be. I mean, come on, you gotta love old classic quotes from Walt Disney, which I shan't quote now because I'll probably get sued. But,
yes, by me. Anyway, so we're talking about Disney because they just did a big old D23 Expo, something I've never heard about. Maybe this is the first one, and announced this huge lineup of movies, and honestly huge. And also, we're talking the people that showed up to promote their movies coming out. God, the buying power of this expo, and it just so went under the radar. People care about, like, MTV Music Awards and stuff like that, and a bunch of nobodies show up to that. Goddamn, like, half the Avengers showed up to this Disney thing.
Yeah.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the highest paid person pretty much on earth at the moment in the entertainment industry, he showed up to it and just no one cared. Yeah. It was bizarre. That you saw that Star Wars has a new movie coming out, which we already knew about anyway. Rise of Skywalker.
Wow.
And
oh my God.
and The Mandalorian, which we didn't really see coming, but yeah, Star
I guess
Wars.
it's something.
Yeah, it's a thing.
If it wasn't for people ripping on how bad some of the trailers looked, I would not have even known these movies were coming. Like the live action Lady and the Tramp. The whole Disney is live actioning everything is coming to fruition, and Lady and the Tramp is no savior or is not safe.
I don't want to see animals talk.
Nobody wants to see animals talk. I mean, come on. The last thing I saw where animals talked and was half decent was fucking Cats versus Dogs, and I was like 7, so I didn't notice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was that? The Aristocrats. Aristocats?
The Aristocats. Yeah, that was the word there, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to watch that one. Just, I want to see if they remake the racist cat.
I wonder if they make the white cat sexy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no, they're kind of going that high for real. I mean, unless you're like Shane Dawson, that's probably not really your thing. But they've definitely dropped that, like, old Disney slightly making just slight human touches. Just enough to add some kind of, like, weird connection to them. I don't know.
Actually, that would be the weirdest thing. Could you imagine if they made the cat's eyes have circular pupils instead of slits?
Oh, yuck. That would look like the Cats trailer.
Ooh. Hey, I'm Taylor Swift and I'm a furry.
Yeah, it's why you just saying that put the image in my head and I hate it.
Hi, look, we want to use you for your first acting role that isn't in a movie clip. We're going to color you to an extent where nobody can recognize you, take away all your hair and give you fur. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's get bloody...
Let's do it. That sounds like a good
Coleman
idea.
in there as well.
Oh.
Yeah, they did announce some stuff that I'm pretty... I mean, they just announced mass trash, like another Maleficent, which is a thing. A thing called Jungle Cruise, which is another thing. Noel, which is like a goddamn another Disney Christmas schlock, but that's fine. They did have some cool stuff. Raya and the Last Dragon, I mean, we've seen nothing about that, but that looks like they're at least trying to bring a bit of personality. I mean, when they own Pixar, and Pixar just produces a very similar aesthetic for half of their videos, it's nice to watch them try something.
Break out a little bit.
Yeah. And we did see a few more Pixar-looking stuff. We have Onward, which actually has Tom Holland, so it looks like Disney's still got their claws in him. Sony may have the spider, but we've got the boy.
Oof, that sounds like you might have his alter ego, but it turns out that Sony just has his just a mannequin in a suit sitting at the back, and Tom Holland's like, I got away, help me, Disney.
He's printed out a picture of his face and stuck it on the mannequin. Yeah,
just stapled it like Deadpool did. Thunk. I'm Tom Holland.
I really wish I just had mannequins lying around for comedic purposes.
I'm pretty sure we'd have to have a deep chat about what's going on in your life.
Yeah, welcome to my house. Don't mind the mannequins.
What's going on there? Ignore them. I told you to ignore them.
Why are you looking at them still? Don't pay attention to them, Deborah. Actually, I think that Disney just announced this so much stuff, and at this point, I struggle to care. I feel like that seems pretty dismissive in the entirety of Disney, but if we're really looking at this lineup, we've got a bunch of remakes or effective just continuations that we didn't need to see. Remakes like Lady and the Tramp. Continuations that nobody asked for. Frozen 2, another Maleficent, Cruella, which is like a weird 101 Dalmatians remake.
From the opposite point of view.
Which is literally a story about somebody skinning puppies. Why are we seeing this in film? Anyway.
I want to know how they make Cruella de Vil not seem like a villain. If they use her.
They put Emma Stone as the main actor. That's how they did it.
Yeah, okay, I have to forgive it.
Emma Stone.
Blondie. Hey man, The Amazing Spider-Man was great for blonde Emma Stone.
Oh god, yeah, that's a while ago, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. When they announce more superheroes, they announce more Star Wars, and at this point, I'm just, I've seen it. I've seen it.
It's like, hey, did that thing we did last time work? Yes. Do it again. Okay.
Do it again. Beat the horse. Print the money.
Print the money. The people will turn up just to see if it's as bad as they expect.
I feel like we've been ranting about Disney far too long. And once again, the bartender actually isn't kicking us out, but God, he looks just disappointed. He looks just like the second I said James Charles ass, he just resigned. We're gonna leave him be. It looks like Happy Hours just finished up anyway.
Yeah, he resigned. It's his last shift today.
Yeah, he's like, my word, if you can get me away from these absolute
They come back every week.
Oh, not only are we coming back every week, we're bringing more friends to make more noise, which we've got over the next few weeks, so that's something to look forward. Anyway, this has been Tavern at the End of the Internet. We'd love to catch you back here next week, so be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're on iTunes or Stitcher or any of that kind of stuff, we'd love it if you could leave a review. Reese, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube and on Instagram under Netwinder, that's NETWINDER, or on Snapchat or Twitter under Real Netwinder. And James, where can we find you?
YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all the good stuff at ANurchin, NURCHIN. And we'll catch you back next week, and we sincerely apologize for this episode.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.